Hello students, in this lecture I am going to explain a new type of immunochemical technique that is RIA or radioimmunoassay technique. As the name indicated, it is a technique of immunoquantification by using radio-labeled antigen or antibodies. Dear students, till now in module 3 we have covered the production of monoclonal and polyclonal antibodies. We have understood the concept of formation of precipitin bands by the reaction of antigen and antibody. We are well versed with the immunodiffusion technique, the type of immunodiffusion technique like single immunodiffusion, that is also known as Mancini diffusion, and the double immunodiffusion, that is also known as Auster-Loney diffusion. We also know that Mancini immunodiffusion or radial or single immunodiffusion is used for the quantitative analysis, whereas the double immunodiffusion or Auster-Loney double diffusion is used for the qualitative analysis of antigen and antibody in sample solution, specifically in biological sample solution. These techniques are used to find out the presence of particular disease in the blood sample of a person. This is also used to detect the presence of victim or convict at the place of crime scene. So these are the very useful techniques in forensic science. Now in today's lecture we will learn about a immunoassay technique, RIA. The full form of RIA is radioimmunolabeled assay. And to understand RIA, you should have knowledge of interaction of antigen and antibody. What is the zone of equivalence? What is pre-zone? What is post-zone? You should be aware with the concept of isotopes and the concept of radio labeling. To understand this topic, you must have knowledge of interaction of antigen and antibody, how the antibody react with antigen to form precipitin bands, what should be the quantity of antigen and antibody to form visible precipitation. You should be aware with the concept of isotopes and the concept of radio labeling. After completion of this lecture, you will be able to explain the complete procedure and application of RIA, as well as you will know the advantages and disadvantages associated with radioimmunoassay. Before starting this lecture, we have a very small animation for you to make this presentation interesting, and you will have some pre-phase knowledge of radioimmunoassay, right? So the radioimmunoassay is an immunoassay technique that uses antibodies to detect and quantitate the amount of antigen or analyte in a sample.
Uses antibodies to detect and quantitate the amount of antigen in a sample. Here is a
like antigen
multiple
and
plate where you would add your sample that need to be analyzed and where you want to know about its concentration.
First, we have
so let's look at one well to understand the principle a bit more details. So let's say you want to detect an antigen A,
that has to be
and you ask the question, this antigen A is present in the patient sample or not,
right?
So first you coat the well with antibody against A or anti-A, let's call it, and now you put radio-labeled antigen A, or let's say any other kind of labeled antigen A, and lastly you put patient serum derived or patient serum or patient's body fluid which expected to have antigen A, and that's the question, whether the patient serum has antigen A or not. That's the thing that you want to detect. So simply radioimmunoassay relies on the principle of competitive binding, where a radioactive antigen, this is a tracer, would actually compete with a non-radioactive antigen to bind to this particular antibody shown here. Now, if the patient sample has huge amount of these unlabeled antigens, then radioactivity would be decreased progressively with the increase of the antigen concentration. And a nice plot could be derived from that, which is a linear regression. From this, by extrapolating this plot, we can understand the concentration of the patient's sample where the antigen is present, and based on the standard curve we can get accurate value of the concentration. So if you have a higher concentration, radioactivity would be very low, or radioactivity or the rate of decrease of radioactivity would be quite high. And if you have a low level of antigen in the patient sample, radioactivity won't fall that much. So depending upon how much percentage of the radioactivity is reduced gives us a quantitative measure about the amount of antigen present. Now let's say we have a patient scenario 1 and a patient scenario 2, and both the cases, as you can see, patient 2 has more antigen present in its serum. So as expected, after washing these things, what you would see is the second case is the radioactivity would really fall, because there most of the labeled antigens are replaced by unlabeled antigen. Why is so? Because unlabeled antigen was higher in concentration. Whereas in the patient 1, the unlabeled antigen was not so much. As a result, not too much of radioactivity is going down, and there are few radioactive antigens which are still labeling the antibody. So based on these observations, we can clearly understand a quantitative measurement about patient sample. So let's look at the downside and the upside of this process. It is very sensitive process, and it is possible to detect as low as few picograms of antigen, provided your antibody is super good. But the downside is it uses radioactive materials which could be hazardous. Now, application of this radioimmunoassay is pretty broad spectrum. So it can be used for drug detection from blood samples, blood bank screening for contaminants such as a hepatitis B virus. So it can really scan for hepatitis B antigens in a blood bank sample, which ensures you don't have a contaminant blood in the blood bank. It can be used to detect cancer biomarkers which are soluble. Other than that, measuring hormone levels, measurement of disease-associated antigen levels, all of these usage can be done by radioimmunoassay. It can be also be used to detect certain vitamins and other metabolites, provided specific antibody is present against them, because the whole process is dependent upon antigen-antibody interaction. So you really need specificity of interaction between antigen and antibody, otherwise this whole process won't work. So that is pretty much about radioimmunoassay, and we learned about what is the usage of this thing, and the sensitivity of the technique is great, which makes it still a technique to be used today in the medical research. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, give it a quick thumbs up. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.
Now, before coming to the exact topic, that is radioimmunoassay, we should first understand what is immunoassay. An immunoassay is actually a biochemical test that measures the presence or concentration of a macromolecule or a small molecule in a solution by using antibodies or antigen. This is a type of qualitative as well as quantitative techniques. By using immunoparticles, we know the immunoparticles are antigen and antibodies. The radioimmunoassay, which is the actual topic of this lecture, is the immunoassay that uses radio-labeled molecules in a stepwise formation of immune complexes. The radioimmunoassay is very sensitive in vitro assay technique that is used to measure concentration of substances. Means it is a quantitative type of assay that usually measuring antigen concentration, for example hormone level in blood, by using antibodies. There is a technique that is very sensitive and very specific. This is a technique given by Burson and Yellow in 1960 for the quantification of external bodies in human system or human body. These scientists received Nobel Prize in 1977, but unfortunately after their death. And as I already told you that this technique is very sensitive, and the sensitivity of such technique is 0.001 microgram per ml. Now you can understand that this technique can be used to quantify the so much little amount of foreign particle or hormone or virus or bacteria within the given sample. So we can summarize radioimmunoassay as this is a technique or the immunoassay that is used to determine the concentration of antigen, for example hormone, serum, protein, drug or vitamin, and this is very sensitive and sophisticated technique. Now let's understand the steps to perform radioimmunoassay. So first of all, we must know the requirement to perform this test. Suppose we have to find out the concentration of a type of antigen in this serum sample. So what are the requirements to perform this test are? The first requirement is anti-A antibodies, means the monoclonal antibodies that can bind with A antigen to form visible precipitate. Okay, now the second requirement is radio labeled A antigen, means if we have to find out the concentration of A antigen, we need two type of A antigen. The first one is radio labeled A antigen, and we know what is radio labeled antigen. The antigen that are labeled with the isotopic element, and for this purpose we generally use an isotope of hydrogen, that is tritium, or iodine 125. In addition to these two things, the anti-A antibodies and the radio labeled A antigen, we also need unlabeled A antigen, right? Again I am telling you, we have to find out the concentration of A antigen in this serum. Apart from this serum, we need three extra things. The one is monoclonal A antibodies that can bind with A antigen to form precipitin band. The second thing we require is the radio labeled A antigen that is labeled with isotopic element like tritium or iodine 125. And the third thing that we need is unlabeled A antigen. So now we have four things. Now we are ready to perform this radioimmunoassay. Now let's see what we have to do in step 1. In step 1, we have to coat a microtiter plate with A anti-monoclonal antibodies, right? The antibodies that can bind with antigen A to form precipitin band. Now after this, we will add radio labeled antigen in excess. Again listen, radio labeled antigen has been added to this pre-coated microtiter plate with antibodies. What will happen? This radio labeled antigen will bind with the antibodies. As we are taking these antibodies in excess, it means no antibody will left unbounded, and then the next step will involve the washing of microtiter plate so that we will have all the antigens bounded with radio labeled antigen and there was no free antigen or antibody left in the microtiter plate. Now just assume if all the antibodies are bounded with radio labeled antigen, it means this microtiter plate will show 100% radioactivity. Again saying, if we have all added excess radio labeled antigen, and these excess of antigen have probability to bind with all antibodies present in the microtiter plate. Then after washing, we will have 100% coated antibodies. Coated with what? Coated with radio labeled antigen. Now this microtiter plate will have 100% radioactivity. This is the first step of RIA. Now what we will do is we will add 1 nanogram solution of unlabeled antigen to this microtiter plate that has 100% radioactivity. What will happen? This unlabeled antigen will compete with the labeled antigen and will replace this unlabeled antigen and get position of on antibodies, right? Now you can see that as we have a very little concentration of unlabeled antigen, only few labeled antigen has been replaced. Now we will wash this microtiter plate to remove unbounded antigen. This is a very important process in all type of immunoassay techniques. See, now what will we do? We will just check the radioactivity of this microtiter plate, right? Suppose at the start, when we have not added any unlabeled antigen, the radioactivity was found 100%, but after adding the unlabeled antigen solution of 1 nanogram per milliliter, the radioactivity get decreased by 10%. Now the overall radioactivity of this microtiter plate is 90%, right? So this is the second step. I am just repeating. We have added 1 nanogram per ml solution of unlabeled antigen. This antigen will compete with the labeled antigen, and this unlabeled antigen will remove after washing. Then we will check the radioactivity of microtiter plate and found that the radioactivity of this plate has been decreased by 10%. Now the radioactivity of this plate is 90%. Means after adding 1 nanogram of solution, the radioactivity get decreased by 10%. Now we will perform the same exercise again, but now in this case or in this step, we will add 2 microgram per milliliter of solution in the microtiter plate of 100% radioactivity. Okay. In the previous step, I have used 1 microgram per milliliter concentration. Now I am going to use, or we are going to use 2 microgram per milliliter concentration of antigen to the microtiter plate of 100% activity. Now what will happen? Now we have more unlabeled antigen in our solution, more competition in between unlabeled and labeled antigen takes place, and finally there will be the more decrease in the radioactivity of the microtiter plate, right? Suppose now in this step we have found 80% of radioactivity, means 20% of radioactivity has been decreased. Again we will perform the same step by increasing the amount of unlabeled antigen in the solution, and remember that we have to perform this experiment to the microtiter plate of 100% radioactivity, means we need approx 10 microtiter plate, right? So now what will we do? We will just note it down, this value. On the one column we will note it down the concentration of the solution of unlabeled antigen, and in the second column we will write down the activity. Remember, these values are just an example and these values may differ with the experiment. Now what we will do, we will just find out the relationship. You can see the relationship is very clear. Increase in the amount of unlabeled antigen, decrease in the radioactivity, right? Now we will plot these value and make a linear standard graph. Okay, we on the y-axis we have taken the percentage radioactivity, and on the x-axis we have taken the concentration of unlabeled antigen in nanogram, and we will get a graph like this, descending graph. This is actually the standard graph. Remember that we have not yet used the sample serum. Okay, these all are the solution that we have made in the lab. We have not yet used the sample serum. Now is the time to find out the concentration of our sample solution that we have taken at the start and which was our actual objective. We have to find out the concentration of A antigen in this serum sample. Now what will we do? We will again have to make the microtiter plate of 100% radioactivity. Now we will add this serum sample to this microtiter plate, right? Suppose after adding this serum sample to the microtiter plate, the radioactivity of the microtiter plate get decreased to 40%, and this is due to the competition of A antigen if present in the serum to the labeled antigen. Okay, now by using this standard graph, now by using this standard graph, you can easily find out that the radioactivity got decreased to 40% when the concentration of A antigen will be 6 nanogram per ml. This was the objective that we have completed by using radioimmunoassay. Now let's sum up with the advantages and disadvantages of RIA. The advantages of RIA are its relative simplicity and the high sensitivity provided by the use of radioactive compounds. However, there are several disadvantages as well, such as high specific activity radioable hormones and a scintillation counter are required as they may not be easily available. These are some references from where I have taken material to prepare this lecture. Keith Wilson and John Walker is a very good reference book. In addition, I have used some YouTube channel for animation and pictures. All the queries and discussion will be taken in online and offline classes. Thank you so much for watching this video and for your patience. Bye bye.